Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's Mark and
Heidi.
Okay. Again, here with another presentation of our live video series, Conversations That Matter. And in these conversations, we dive into topics we think our audience, who are often familiar with integral and/or spiral dynamics theory, will take some interest in.
And we do take some interest in too.
Us too?
Yeah, we like to listen to our guests.
Yes, we do. Yeah, there's a selfish part here too. We get to listen to the guests. Yeah. This series is brought to you through our website, thewisdomfactory.net, which is our effort to bring out into the world in conversation with very special people who have experience, knowledge, and wisdom to share with us all. Two such people are our guests this week, Monika Frühwirth and Tom Christensen, who've been talking, and who knows what else, privately.
And now we want them in the public.
Yeah, we'll want them to do it in front of everybody, yeah. Well, today we get to join in what they've been up to and how they've been going about it. It's a kind of advanced talking and listening, but more. And these fine points we'll leave up to them as they explain it to us, along as to all of you.
Yeah, and the title of today is Presencing and the Emerging of what? We will see what comes out of that.
Of what? Yeah, exactly. Of what? Yeah. Okay. And both of these guests were featured in our other series separately in Conscious Aging, where you can watch each of their individual conversations at thewisdomfactory.net, Conscious Aging.
Okay.
Now, for starters, since Monika, say hi, Monika.
Hi.
Hi. Very good. Monika is fresh from the Integral European Conference regathering in Vienna, where she got to brush up on her techniques, as she can now practice them with us and her fellow voyager. Tom Christensen, say hi, Tom.
Hi there. Hello.
All right. Now, Monika has confessed in writing that she prefers that men lead. So let's let you, Tom, tell our audience what you'd like them to know about you before we get into the stuff.
Well, let me put a little of that in context, is that Monika and I have been really having a lot of fun with the dance metaphor. And a beautiful dance happens when the man leads, and with the most subtle indication of where he's leading, and then the woman responds and puts beauty into that move. So it's in kind of respect for that magic. In fact, earlier today, Monika told me, oh, that's the yin and the yang. Well, that's what it is until you're dancing. Then it's not yin and yang, it's yin yang.
Yin yang. Sure.
So we've had a bit of a taste of that in our conversations together. And I think today, if we're talking about presencing, then we have to know what it is we're presencing. And we can either hunt around for something to experiment with, or we can take the given, which is an inquiry into the nature of presencing. Mm-hmm. So that might mean just sitting here and acknowledging our humbly our ignorance, and opening up some room for insights to come that we want to share about this. So for beginners, maybe we start there. And so where are you sitting with this, Monika?
Yeah, the problem is, or the challenge is, at the regathering, we had it easy to go into a higher we space. We created a flow of movement, and then we sat back to back, our hearts opening. So how can we create a virtual we space, higher we space. That's the challenge for me. And I could just sit there and listen to your voice because I like your voice. And yeah, that would be easy. But of course, I am now challenged to be my meta self and higher being, but I'll do my best. I really do my best.
I would suggest, when I can, that we just sit here for maybe a minute or so and just sense into the presence of each other. Because Monika is in Vienna, we are in Italy, and Tom, you are where exactly?
Wisconsin, Mineral Point.
Ah, okay, yes, true. I forget it all the time. But
How could you forget
like
that?
you?
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, we are quite far distance, and normally we would think, you know, how can you create a space, a communal space in such a distance? But actually, by seeing each other and hearing each other's voice, and only looking at each other, and I invite the guests, viewers, to do that too. Just tune into. Get quiet in yourself and tune into yourself, and then the people you see. Logically, who is watching sees mainly the ones on the camera, and the others are smaller. This is a little bit more difficult, but just we can see each other, and we try to, for a minute or so, to sense into you far away and bring you back into a common space. Okay, is that okay?
Okay.
I would add to that do some deep abdominal breathing, because that will activate the vagus nerve, and that will relax our whole system, all of us together, and that will allow our narrative mind, our monkey mind, to quiet, and that always has to do with before or after, and we're trying to become right in the present with our attention. And really, abdominal breathing that fills your whole body activates the vagus nerve, and that relaxes us. So that's a secret we can use anywhere.
Okay. Okay, it's the minute starts now.
But I don't want to lose any people, so maybe we come back here now and recognize that if we're dealing with presencing, we're dealing with the present. This is bringing a certain something into the present that we might not if we weren't intentional about it. Now, we are always presencing something, but a lot of that comes out of reaction patterns, history, fears, stuff that really isn't created out of intention. I think our intention here, and Monika, reshape this as you see it needs to, is to be open to some insights that will be useful to ourselves and all the listeners. And it's around this question of what can we do with our being? We know about our doing really well because we spent most of our life doing that. But at some point, some of us reach a level of cognitive complexity where we can even objectify our being. And we can, oh, I'm being that way, I'm being this way. And once we can do that, the whole world of wizardry opens up for us. And that's where we can bring into the present something that wasn't there until we took a stand for it, until we held a certain worldview that made it possible for that something to show up. So it takes a certain amount of risk and abandon, because I don't have a script here to share. I'm waiting for something to come to me that will be useful, and just trusting that what comes will, and then we'll see what unfolds from that. How's that sound, Monika?
Yeah, that sounds fun. When we had our meditation, our 1 minute meditation,
Sorry.
I
45 seconds.
I all of a sudden experienced our little blue planet. I don't know from which perspective I saw it, but there was Tom, and there were you, and there was I. And it was so small and so close, everything. So pretending that it's just noon now at Wisconsin and it's early evening in Vienna, it doesn't make any difference. It's just one time, one planet, one being. And I wonder why we insist on frontiers and barriers and just to feel safe or to feel our nationality. We had 70 people from 20 nations at the International European Gathering. And it was one kind of energy and one kind of responsiveness to everybody. So this is really something everybody should experience once in his life, at least.
So is it fair to say it was like the energy began to live the whole group?
Yeah, it was, well, there was multi-perspectivity, and there were so many people there from different nations with a different accent, but you could see that everybody was geared to one goal, being together, understanding each other, and presencing something new. And it was quite moving. We also had a constellation on what Germany may give to the world or to Europe. And that was deeply moving. And I guess they are going to have it again in Berlin in May or June. So they were unexpected, deeply moving moments, and you couldn't handle them with your mind. It just went right into the heart. That's so sensing the difference between the heart and the mind and letting go. Oh yes, we also use the word surrender, which has a very esoteric, old-fashioned meaning. But oh, and another thing was contraction and expansion. So the way you breathe, as we used our breath before to go down into the chakras, that you need the contraction to get into the expansion. And it's a rhythm, and it's a natural rhythm. And if you resist part of it, then you're really in trouble. So this is something I found very, very invigorating, and it's an inspiration.
So
tell me,
can I say something?
Contrast that experience, because that's I wrote something to I think all four of us the other day about I was cleaning up something in the garage and I knocked over something and I got really pissed that that thing was fell over.
Yeah.
You know, I yelled at it, and why would it do that? And why don't you just sit there? You know, of course, it can't hear me. There's nothing. But I certainly present frustration and anger.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if anybody was around, they would have felt some of that. But to me, that's a different kind of presencing than what you're talking about in that experience you had. What's the difference?
Well, we also talked about that 15-year-old, as you just mentioned, the one of your conditioning of your youth. And the Roshi there, he also fell prey to his 16 or 15-year-old sparring with somebody about half his age and breaking a wrist. But my 15-year-old, I keep her under a close watch. And she is really the source of vitality. So I wouldn't want to miss her. But of course, I don't let her take over. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that there are some places where the 15-year-old, if I have an adult on duty and I want to have a little bit more vitality and excitement in my moment, I might bring up my 15-year-old with first having a little talk, like, this is not the place to be angry, okay? We'll take care of that later. But now, show me what else you have. And then I just begin acting my 15-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Well, what would your 15-year-old do now?
Right now. Well, my 15-year-old is actually having a great time because he loves to be in high-risk situations. You know, and with, you know, very credible people watching this and not knowing what I'm going to say, that's a pretty high-risk situation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that 15-year-old is having a very good time right now already.
I don't want to think of all the people who might watch. Just blocking that out. Yeah. So let's be our wiser selves and just let the 15-year-old, I guess everybody's expecting wisdom here. It's the wisdom factory.
Yeah, but you don't have to take it so on the word. I still would like to know a little bit what there might be people who have no idea what presencing means and what sensing means. Mm-hmm. They think present, yeah, okay, present, past, future, but what exactly do you understand by presencing? You gave an example by when you feel your anger and then you presence your anger, but it's not what Monika meant. What exactly is presencing? And then first, sensing and all these other things.
I only can rely on the U-turn theory of Scharmer, which I know. And it starts with downloading your past patterns and sensing them, opening your mind, and then...
That sounds very theoretical. Can you describe it a little more? Or I can do what I feel when I do sensing. It's like there are little antennas everywhere, you know. Yeah, and they go into the field. You hear something maybe, yeah, and smell and all these things too. But there is more. There are more perception possibilities.
Dimensions. How about dimensions?
That's good. Good.
So you sense other dimensions. And as I mentioned before, I found in this Sufi literature I have that the ground of being, which Scharmer, in my opinion, goes down to, and then you turn up again, that this ground of being is a state of mind. So presencing, Scharmer's presencing is in the mind mostly, although he uses the heart and opening up.
Here's what I could say about that is that let's do it in contrast to what isn't presencing.
Okay.
And we can go back younger when the only thing we could notice about our minds is that the stories that we're in. And we most of the time don't even notice that. We just live it. I'm on the way to the grocery store. Oh, hi there. Nice to see you. Oh, geez, I have to get gas on the way home. And boy, I hope that TV show's on tonight. And you know, we go along with that chitter chatter in our mind all the time. And what's that doing? What that's doing is it's anchoring us to something in the past and anchoring us to something in the future. It's the reality of most of us and all of us when we're younger. It's a narrative, linear. It's going from somewhere to somewhere else. So that passage of time is very critical to our earlier kind of cognition. It's narrative, it's linear. Now, at some point, we're able to shorten that narrative space down to just the present. And when we bring our mind just to the present, that's where being exists. Doing takes time. So we're setting doing aside and centering in the now. So that's the first step, is to be able to bring your whole awareness to the present without any narrative going on.
Right.
That's like the building block. Then the next thing is we have to bring some pieces in to hold that space. So Scharmer brings in a certain intent about solving problems with a notion that I can listen the future that wants to come into me. Presencing doesn't require that. That's Otto's way of using that capacity. We could presence love just for the sake of sharing that. So we just generate that within ourselves as best we can, and then let ourselves sit with that, and that brings that forward. Now, we may want to hold the space of love for somebody. That means to hold that sense of being loving while something else is going on. So we presence love because that will influence the interaction of those we're engaged with. We could presence possibility. And for us in a lot of business situations is, I don't know what can happen here, but I'm open to whatever I can think up or you can think up that will come into the group mind that might give us insight into how to solve this problem. We could presence healing and just invite unknown. We don't have to know how to do this. We just set the commitment that I'm here for the purpose of healing to occur for those that I'm engaged with. And then you continue to hold that notion, that commitment to be a healing space while you engage with the other person. So this is something that we actually do all the time. We bring a certain kind of presence, but now we're talking about doing intentionally, which is the freedom that opens up when we mature to the point where we can do this. Which we have to keep in mind that some people can't do this. Some people are younger. 4-year-olds can't drive cars. There's nothing wrong with that. They just haven't unfolded to the point where they can. So you mustn't take this into every situation and think it's going to work. A classroom full of third graders, probably not. Maybe a room full of world leaders, maybe not. But somewhere we get magic groups like this where it makes sense to everybody.
Yeah.
So presencing is also a state of mind, not only the ground of being. And we keep, I'm practicing it now while you are speaking, keeping the state of mind and having the intention to hold space for you both and also for...
I've been listening and watching myself very closely the past few minutes. I seem to have a continual fluctuation between a past moment, future moment, and in between there's something that I scarcely notice. It passes so fast, but there's something in between. I have this in a near dreaming state often too, where I'm sort of conscious in a way that I recognize as conscious, and then I'm just not. And there's a switch, boom, and a switch back, poof. And the wonderful thing is when the switch stays in the position for a while.
Would you say this is an alpha or a gamma?
I would call it, as much as I know about it, I'd say alpha.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When you're very concentrated, as in some professions you have to do that, then people have measured different brain waves in the gamma.
Yeah, but
so
I don't
maybe
think
presencing is.
what
Maybe.
I think between sleep and non-sleep, I think it is alpha. But for instance, I have experienced, for instance, in a concert when I sing and it went well, these flow states, and I think they are gamma states.
Definitely.
Very present. Yeah. Also, there are still thoughts, but they are not really thoughts. There's something, just passing by. Are not important. Don't take you out of this state. And I think this is something like what we are talking about, isn't it?
Well,
what might interest me is how people who have never heard of it could be lured into trying it.
We ask the people who are watching.
try me.
Yeah, you, but also the people who are watching to write a comment, or now or later when you see it on recording. Write a comment. What would you think? How to do it?
Well, here's a very easy way to test it, to learn what's going on, is pick out somebody you're angry at.
Somewhat?
Pick somebody you're angry at.
Oh, angry.
They pointed you, they offended you, they something. And then you think of, what am I going to do about this? And you'll get some ideation. But then quiet that anger and open your heart and recognize that they have a mama, just like you did. And, they've got their struggles and, they're lovable right at the core. And then what are you going to do with this person? That's the difference. One, you presence anger and engage the moment. The other, you presence love and engage the moment. Quite different results, I'll bet. Different outcomes.
Can I add something? You say, calm your anger. And I think this is the crucial part, because normally we don't know how to do that. We are going again, and he has done this, and then he has said this, and blah, 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 blah. And I think what you said at the beginning was taking a breath. I think this is breathing down almost to the earth, I would say, and very consciously breathing can help. Normally it does, to calm down all sorts of emotions. It is a way to come back into a balanced state. Do you have any other suggestions?
Yes, stepping back half an inch from what you felt, and just stepping back, because then it's an object and you are no longer part of it. So you
mean to see yourself being angry?
You think this is anger? Buddhists have many practices in this respect, and they all work.
For those that are in spiral dynamics here, that capacity that Monika's talking about, to be able to step back, technically it's, can you think and feel about your thoughts and feelings? You can only do that once your cognitive complexity has gotten to the level of orange.
Oh,
so you can
explain orange. Nobody knows what orange is.
Well, that's for the spiral dynamics.
That's our just our language.
For the rest, it doesn't matter. It's either there or it isn't.
So you have to have a capacity to self-reflect, not only self-reflect, but also to be aware of what is coming up inside of you.
Right. You can see it. You can notice it.
Sure.
And this is not easy. Because most people are acting out the emotions. And are you sure that it is already in orange? Because also orange people are
dynamic, goal-oriented.
And maybe overrunning emotions and whatever comes up. Just a question. I don't want to go further into it because we have no spiral dynamic explanation now, and it's not the topic, but just interesting.
Now, you say it's a bit difficult, but also it's the opportunity at this age. Take us back 20 years ago, we couldn't do this.
Right.
That's right.
We didn't have the object. So this is our playground now.
You mean ours, we have a certain age, we four, and not generally in the world or whatever. So, okay.
In our 60s and 70s, yes, not necessarily in our 40s and 50s.
Yeah, but I think there are people in their 40s who are now really very
not in our 40s and 50s.
Not in our 40s, no.
You're right. It seems that things are speeding up. At least we're collecting more people around us that can recognize that this is possible.
Yeah.
Something that's stuck in my mind is the difference that presencing solo and presencing in a group is. Presencing in a group means that there is a shared background of implicit information. So everybody's holding the same space.
Right.
What that does, it allows for collective consciousness to emerge.
Mhm.
Once everybody has the same mind frame, and it sounds complex, but it's really not. You pick out a few basic beliefs, a few basic intentions, you tap the same kind of motivations in people, and because our natural way is to entrain with others, as monkeys, we had to know what the other monkeys were up to. So we tune in just before we know we're even doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way to help that tune in is to have a couple of fundamentals that we believe in as a group, and then engage, and stuff happens that can't happen with a single mind.
Yeah.
And I think Monika was alluding to that with that IEC experience.
Yeah, and I want to give a very, let's say, maybe more understandable example. It is making music together. When
Yes.
everybody is in the same space, has exactly the same ideas of music, when you hear this music, you are blown away. But when they are just playing the notes, everybody their own notes, and there is no common ground, yeah, it's music, but you know, I can recommend to you on Medici TV, they have all 9 symphonies of Beethoven played by Gustave Dudamel and the Simon Bolivar Orchestra of Venezuela, which was created out of the intention of one music teacher. He went out into the slums and taught the children music. And when you hear them, they are now adults. When you hear those people play, you are really, because they have this basis together, and they have this idea of music connected with that orchestra director together. You know, this takes you in other spaces. It's really, and I think we can do that too when we learn to sense into it. In music, you are sort of, let's say, when you want to be part of the orchestra and do it well, you are normally sensing into it. And this makes you feel like you forget yourself, but you are part of the collective, and you are very, very present at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so I think
music theory is a wonderful way to approach this, because there are intervals in music, distance between notes.
Mm-hmm.
If those distances are linear, you have a melody. If the distance is in the present, you have a chord.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got harmonic intervals or melodic intervals. Simple music only has a melody. It can only go narratively. Somewhere along the line, somebody realized you could do something with the present. You could add 2 notes, 3 notes, 4 notes. And suddenly you're playing with the present. And then you combine them, and you have what we're doing here, presencing our being to each other while we're sharing narratively. But it's much simpler to see that in music.
Exactly, because the lines of everybody go harmonically together.
Well, you mean we are a chord.
Yeah. Right now. Yeah.
Right now.
And we hope our viewers, our audience is with us in the chord, because you know you can have big, long, and very soundy chords.
Indeed.
And we can imagine, listen to them.
But you also need the distance to develop a chord. So maybe this is exactly what we do from our local distance, from our cultural distance. We sound differently as if I were an American or a New Yorker talking to Tom. This may be different, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he would talk differently to you. And he would talk differently to you.
Because we are creating...
I don't know. Would you talk differently to me, Tom, if I were a New Yorker?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
what would you say?
Well, here's what would happen to me is I would presume I knew a lot more about you than I do now, because you've got a little accent, you know, you're a woman. That's always a question of what's our differences here, and you're in a different culture. So I have a broader range of curiosity, a smaller range of certainty about what I expect to come out of you.
So that makes it interesting.
Yes, much more interesting.
And it asks you to be more present to the cues. And isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
And I was thinking about when we talk in different groups with different people, we will always create a different form of we space. It might have similar parameters, but it is a little bit different. It depends on who is part of the group, and isn't it?
Yep. If you got a quartet, different instruments will give you a different sound.
Exactly.
So what would be our wish to presence right now?
My fire right now is the presence, the possibility of collective intelligence. Like it, because I do believe that the solution, collective intelligence produces more solutions quicker than individuals do. We have intractable problems on the planet right now, and that's clear evidence that individual minds can't solve them. So the solution in the future is collective problem solving. And this isn't like people sending in collective lists of stuff and somebody review them. This is doing exactly what we're doing, coming together with an open mind, open heart, focusing on something and seeing what shows up. Not coming with answers, coming with an inquiry. I believe that's, if we're gonna make the future work on the planet, it'll be collaboration, and it'll be at this very subtle merging level that we will birth the answers that we're looking for.
Yeah, and this is, we can go back to integral theory, let's say, because one person has a limited set of perspectives. And when we have more, maybe you have some other bit to add, and you have some other bit to add, and you have, and so the more people coming together in the spirit of listening to each other and seeing what the other has to offer and offer their own gifts, let's say, that's a little bit used too much, but anyway, when everybody gives their part, that creates something completely different than when one is sitting here on the desk and is figuring out what to do.
Yeah? I'm taking notes about what to say when it's my turn. Yeah, yeah.
It's important, though, that, and I think you were alluding to this already, that it's not additive. It's not like you get 4 people and you've got 25% better than 3 people. There really is a phenomenon that emerges that's other than the individuals.
Yeah.
And that's why I call it collective consciousness, because it's a different kind of cognition.
Yeah.
It can birth ideas the individuals can't.
Yeah, to me comes the example. Also, our human body is more than the sum of the little organs. You know, a new whole is more than the sum of the pieces. So
Absolutely.
why not here? Why not with consciousness? So it makes completely sense. The only thing is, so far we didn't know how to do that. Or
well, if you consider that you are the universe, so there are 4 universes sitting together here.
And we have some in the audience, of whom I know.
Okay.
Roland Takaoka is there and listening.
Definitely a universe.
Definitely, there are others who haven't shown up, but be your universe together with us.
But what I'm wondering, what I was trying to get at, is how many universes are there? When we meet someone with whom we get in resonance, it's easy, because then you know, well, maybe we are from the same universe. But to meet a completely different universe. And in Austria and in Germany, we are now meeting different universes. And this is a great challenge because you really have to ask yourself, is there anything we have in common? Or is it just, or does it have to be different? So this is something and the collective mind is very divided, as it is in the States, so it is in Austria and in Germany and in Europe. So how can we get the collective mind to find a common denominator in facing these challenges? That's one of my, what I am presencing right now. Yeah.
Well, I would like to address your verbiage just a little bit. There won't be a collective mind with different universes. There will be, there will be different universes talking to each other, and out of those we could emerge a collective, and the collective entails agreement. If we hit the collective level, we can't do that unless we have agreements. And so we may not know what those are at first because we don't verbalize everything about ourselves. So we might have to then go meta for a while and say, how come we can do this? Or we might put that in the middle of the group, like I did with the group I was teaching at the university. I says, I think we stumbled into yellow. What's different here? So we studied it and got some measures of why that kind of being was different. So to me, the procedure would be to get people who are willing and come from different points of view, different worldviews, to hang together in this kind of a space, looking for where do we agree? Where, you know, actually you have to find, I don't know exactly what creates collective consciousness, but I know it's significantly different and you can feel it when it happens. The energy in the room changes. And once that's present, then we can begin studying saying, how did we get here?
But also, we can agree that we differ.
True, true. We don't have to be agreeing on everything.
Right.
No.
And as long as you are comfortable with that, and you're not a missionary, then things get easier. So.
Yeah, and you have to have an open mind and risk a little bit that your convictions might not be 100% true, and that the other person might have to offer something which you don't know. So it needs some courage and some, open-heartedness and open-mindedness, both.
Chris,
Oops.
Well,
I was reading Thich Nhat Hanh this morning, and he was pointing out that we have this discriminating mind that separates things and makes them different. You can't come into this collective consciousness experiment with that active, because that's, you're judging. This is okay. This is okay. This is not okay. This, you know, and that precludes collective consciousness. So if you've got fear present, you're not going to get there. If you've got judgment present or any kind of sense of superiority, that you won't get there. So it takes this kind of house cleaning before you offer yourself into that space.
So coming back to what Monika said, how can we get a common understanding? It would mean that we can get that only if there is the willingness to find it. We cannot impose it on somebody, impose a we space on somebody. That just doesn't, it works, but it's not the one we mean, you know.
But here, let me tell you the truth. This is the truth. Are you ready?
Yes.
How far will that get me?
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. It really does, because some people want that, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, we're talking to each other here, and we have this ability to look at what we're looking at, you know. But 70% of the world doesn't have that ability. But they're going to be at the table too. What do we do?
Okay, but that puts a huge, huge responsibility on us.
Yes.
There's one more thing I would like to share with you about our European regathering of the energy. It's compassion and responsibility for your impact, the impact you have on others.
Yeah.
So, and this is something that was really challenging. The word challenge just keeps following me all. Okay. We had, the Roshi was giving a beautiful talk, and then somebody asked about that some people have a different kind of line they follow, or a different kind of religion, and about the impact of Zen on everybody. And then all of a sudden, the atmosphere changed. There was a silence. I hadn't heard there wasn't no noise before, but there was a silence. Everybody was on their toes because this was something that really touched them. Their own individual way or path. And he called it a Dharma door when I mentioned it. So there is something opening in such moments where you haven't been before. And when you step into that, everything is just wider and easier and more caring and etc. All the beautiful things we always want. Yeah.
But you cannot produce it. You cannot just...
No. But the right question, maybe evoke it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also an element of what you mentioned earlier, Monika, resonance, that if there's a person with the right quality of being, they can actually lift the others in the group to that level. Now that has to be known, because you leave that person's presence and you won't be able to bring it up again, most likely. Maybe you will, but it can be an artifact of who's there.
And it's mostly those who are rather humble that lift the others. So it's not the force and not the impact, it's those who make a room for everybody. Raum, my favorite.
Raum.
Raum, yeah.
I'm brought to give you an example. I hope this will be relevant. I used to study with a old lady up on the shores of Lake Superior, and she would take me into past lives. And she said, she took me into one where I was in a tribe in some jungle area. And my job, everybody knew me in the little village as the one who made the wooden utensils we used there. That's what the obvious thing about me was. But what I was doing is I was the spiritual center of that little village. And it was the vibration that I held, the space that I held, that set the tone for the whole community. So do what you want to with that story. I don't believe
Well,
it.
I was just wondering, so how are you using that experience now?
Well, just to say that, you know, our presence does make a big difference. I mean, there was an example, I don't know if it really happened, but I could certainly see it occurring. That we carry that around with us all the time. So if we want to be really rigorous with ourselves, we need to check in real regularly and say, is this the vibe I want in my community, in my house, in my relationship? And because we are doing something all the time. We have something to be responsible for all the time. And at this age, we have choice that we didn't have before. And I don't carry that as a burden. I carry that as an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You still do wooden things?
Yeah. You know, but I do paintings. You might see one up there on the wall. You can't see it too well, but they are spiritual trickster work. If you look at my paintings long enough, it forces you to create a three-dimensional image out of them. And that is fostering the more complex mind we need on the planet. That's what I'm up to now.
There you go.
The trickster.
I just wanted
Thank you,
another
Monica.
product placement.
All right.
That sounds good.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Well, Heidi, how is your space right now? How do you feel when you breathe through?
I must say I have a little bit left the space I had before. It was deeper. Now it was more getting to more conversational level, let's say, a little less like the bowl. But I'm still here. You know, I was thinking about telling the audience that we have done in the series Women Matters a conversation, 1.5 hours more or less, which was a presencing experiment. It is not yet on YouTube, but it will be on YouTube very soon and posted on our website. And this is an example how by the sharing of one woman, and we followed some guidelines, you know, how to do that. And we had a facilitator, how you can go into a space of feeling together, by the sincerity and vulnerability of a person sharing what is going on for them and where they need us, for instance, or other people, where we can help them and so on. And we share how we feel in the moment when she says it, when she had 10 minutes or 15 minutes to present her how can I say, situation. And then we came into this very, very, very deep space, which we didn't go today here with our conversation, but it is a feeling quality. And when you said a presencing is only in the mind, you said it before, Tom, no? Mainly in the mind and the heart. I would say what I experienced about 2 hours ago, it was in the lower belly. It was really in the body.
Now, I would say, you know, the more aware I get, the more I notice my whole being is involved. Yeah, don't break it at all. It's all of me.
Yeah. And it's a certain feeling which you recognize when you have had it once, and then you think you know that's it. That's it.
You know what though? I have this image, this little story that's come to me that God says, I need a couple of my angels. St. Peter, will you send me those two over there? I need to have some place in the world that brings wisdom focused into media and then passes out to other beings. And I think I'll call them Mark and Heidi, and I'll put them in Italy, and they won't even know it. They'll keep speaking, but what is this real way of being that'll make a big difference? And look at you guys. I mean, this is this is a huge impact you're having by the space you're holding for wisdom in the world.
For emerging wisdom, because we are a factory. We are not yet wise people, but we hope we are going towards that and invite people to come with us on the path.
The production line isn't quite set up yet.
But we were talking about intentions. I remember when I was 40, I set the intention, I want to become wise in this life. And I sort of forgot it then. I was so immersed in all sorts of stuff, you know, relationship problems and whatever. But then when we began with the wisdom factor, I thought, oh, maybe something has gone on through all these years, you know.
Well, I don't know if we had this in mind when we started.
For sure not.
No, but here we are, and that's just fine.
And this fly is protesting.
Yes. We have a fly.
But, you know, when you're an angel and you come down into human form, you lose awareness of most of your being. So you think you're doing this, but most of you is up to something else.
Now, how do you know? How do you know if you don't remember?
That's all of humanity you're talking about.
True.
Of course. Yeah. I know a little more about me than I did a while ago, but there's so much more, so much that I don't know. I know less than I used to.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really, that sounds
Yeah.
paradox, no? But it is paradox.
Yeah.
But when you know less and you know everything which you have learned, but you feel so much more free to learn more and to experience more.
Yeah.
Because if you know already everything, what inspiration is there to know?
And before we end, we're getting towards the end. I want to encourage you, Tom, to think again about participating in something ongoing, because you have some wonderful ideas that just spurred me when I heard about them, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago. You talked about this period of life of older people who have the time and the space, the experience, and the wisdom to actually bring into the world a new level of consciousness. You remember talking about that.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And it got a very mixed reception, but I was absolutely thrilled and excited by that prospect. So, stick around, please.
All right. Pull me in, I'll play.
Okay.
Yeah. Monika has already said she would stick around. So
Oh, good.
that's good.
Will you?
If you convince me, I have to do the tech stuff. Without me, you don't do anything.
Okay. All right. Where else can I go? I gotta be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really, really, really very enlightening and very much fun
Yeah.
to be with you too.
Mm-hmm.
We will repeat this.
I'm glad you always just get whatever is necessary, and we reboot and we get a new browser, and so
everything.
Yep.
Yeah, and we reboot our lives too. No, we don't say we are 60 or 70 or whatever, and then
I forgot, I didn't talk to Tom about recalibrating this, all what we are doing here, because this is something that also interests me. Recalibrating collective consciousness.
I think so. Also, when we're in the flow like this, I set the calibrating aside. Yeah, recalibrating is something I do afterwards and say, okay, where did I miss the mark? What did I believe that was holding me back? What did I learn that asked me to believe something different now?
Okay.
I think we have to try that out again.
That reminds me of trying to tell somebody about the dream I had. I'm telling them about the dream. It's not the dream. Not at all.
Yeah.
My dream
Hey, listen,
is to go on.
before you, I think we're winding down here, but I wouldn't have met Monika without you guys. Yeah, that would have been a terrible, terrible loss. So say it.
I needed that. Thank you.
And how did we get Tom to know?
Maybe you remember, Tom. How did
the nice thing?
I think you guys would be good hooked up, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
The nice thing with what we are doing is we get to know so wonderful people. This is so great. And I always thought I was alone, and now I get to know so many people, only because I have overcome my fear of being public and of doing the technique, because I was not a tech guy by no means. And now I've learned all this, and there are some errors or something, but it is so rewarding. And I encourage everybody. And there's a lot of help out there, people who are happy to help, like me too. I have helped a lot of people to use the technique. And there, for instance, Roland, we are using his comment stream in the website. It's all, offering, how do you say, open source sort of, we are happy to help each other. And I think in this spirit.
There is another topic. How do you overcome fear? How do you gain courage?
Well, I don't know. just sit there in front of the
weather. That's very courageous.
sit there in front of the camera, and people are expecting me to say something, and so I open my mouth and I talk, and I get better at it.
And that's what we can say to the viewers, because there are viewers, and so far I see only Roland commenting. There are people still sort of hiding, as I did for a long time. And come out, show up, be our guest here live on camera, and you will see it's fun and it's easy. It's not so difficult as you think.
Yep.
It's not. Yeah, we can do another talk about that. But at this point, we are over the hour. I would say we close the broadcast, and we invite the people to come back to our next session, which will be May 12th, because it will be again on Friday, but not this Friday, but the next Friday.
Because we're going traveling.
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody out there.
Bye.
And subscribe to us on YouTube, and subscribe for our newsletter and all these nice things, so you get information about the Wisdom Factory.
.net.
Okay. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Tom. Bye, Monika.
Bye. Thank you.